CoTeaching by Haley Dobbins. So lawmakers created laws that advocate and protect individuals with disabilities and provide them with the best education possible. This was the Individuals with Disabilities Act, IDEA, which was created in 1975. This is a federal special education law. It states that students must be taught in a least restrictive environment, which is inclusion, and individuals with disabilities must be integrated into a general education classroom to the maximum extent possible and taught by highly qualified teachers. What evolved from this law was the model of co-teaching. What is co-teaching? Co-teaching is a collaborative effort from a general education and special education teacher which makes it possible for students with disabilities to be taught in an inclusive general education classroom and receive the necessary accommodations expressed in their IEP. An IEP is an individualized education plan. There's 6 different types of co-teaching. The first type is one teach, one observe. This is when one educator is leading the main instruction while the other educator is observing and collecting behavioral and academic data. The second type is station teaching. This breaks the room into 3 groups. Each group switches between 3 stations, 2 of which are led by 2 educators, and 1 of which is left for independent work time. In this model, both teachers have separate responsibilities and focus on different content area skills. The third type is parallel teaching. This splits the classroom into 2 groups. Both instructors teach the same material but in 2 separate groups. So this allows for a lower student to teacher ratio and more opportunities for participation. This allows the educators to accommodate for students who may learn at different paces and have different learning styles. The fourth type of co-teaching is alternative teaching. This splits the classroom into 2 groups, but this time the students will switch between both educators. One teacher is teaching a smaller group while the other teacher is teaching the large group instruction. In the small group, the teacher is teaching pre-taught lessons, clarifying lessons, and administering different types of assessments. This model has both educators deliver different content to address a variety of students' needs. The fifth type of co-teaching is team teaching. This is when both educators lead the large group instruction together. The co-teachers work collaboratively while delivering instruction and often build off of each other's sentences. This allows the educators to represent different viewpoints and depict multiple ways to solve problems. The sixth type of co-teaching is one teach, one assist. One teacher is leading the large group instruction while the other educator is floating around and providing individual assistance. This helps co-teachers learn how to collaborate with one another. This can also help build up student confidence because the educator who's floating around is providing positive and corrective feedback to the students. They're praising them, and this allows the assistant to be focusing on reinforcements while the other teacher is just focusing strictly on the content of the lesson. So my first point of something that's really important to remember while co-teaching is communication and collaboration. So the effectiveness of this instruction can vary depending on the quality of reflective dialogue. So this needs to be done before, during, and after lessons. The 2 teachers need to get together and have a conversation about the lesson. It allows them to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of their lesson and adapt it for future lessons accordingly. These adaptations will increase student learning and the effectiveness of the lesson. Continuing on with this point, another study also focused on this. So this study conducted different interviews with co-teachers, and they emphasized 2 themes. So the first theme was the importance of collaboration and teacher compatibility. In order to effectively teach, they must be able to communicate effectively. The second theme focused on how teachers emphasized that co-teaching has a positive outcome on students and that it removes the negative connotation associated towards special education, and it helps these individuals to feel more included in the classroom. Moving on to the second point is professional development. So it states that educators must receive training before they are paired with another teacher. Educators who receive professional development training on co-teaching benefit not only the educators, but also their students. So the goal of co-teaching is to increase student achievement and inclusion. The author of this study explained that general educators often want to have an inclusive classroom, they just don't feel comfortable enough with their skills of differentiating instruction and accommodating all students' needs. Whereas special educators often don't feel comfortable teaching specific content area. And so this training can teach these educators how they can build off each other and use their skills and effectively balance this for a co-teaching classroom. And by doing this, it can increase all their students' achievement. The second study talks about how teacher education programs for pre-service educators often don't have as much training for co-teaching in general education pre-service programs as they do for special education pre-service programs. And so this study said that since it is a collaborative effort that they should combine these programs. So this study created a college level course which was instructed by special education professors and general education professors and had students from both programs co-plan lessons and reflect on the challenges and rewards that can come from co-teaching. And so one quote from one of the participants said that if general and special education teachers work together, they can accomplish a lot with their students. By doing this, the students benefit a lot more than by just having one teacher. So through professional development and other types of training courses, educators can come to realize the importance of co-teaching and the benefit that it will have on all their students. So some implications for future practice. So first, it's very important that they co-plan their lessons together. So one of the articles really focuses on how co-planning can help them build a relationship of trust and respect. And continuing on with this, for the second point is that both teachers must follow through with their responsibilities. So when they're co-planning and they pass off responsibilities for different portions of the lessons to each other, it is very important that they both come prepared and are able to teach their portion of the lesson, or the students will be losing out on vital information. And so this is another reason why communication and collaboration are so important. Lastly, that co-teachers should plan assessment together. And so this will help them to consider both teachers' expertises. So special educators are trained on how to write individualized assessments, whereas general education teachers are trained on how to write whole class assessments. So through a collaborative effort, they can write some good assessments together. So future directions for research. I think that it would be really beneficial to research which type of co-teaching models benefit which types of students. And so there was specifically mentioned in one article how parallel teaching can increase students' participation, especially those who are more reluctant to answer. So students who are more on the shyer end, well, parallel teaching is good for them. So I think it'd be really beneficial if an article were to break down which type of students benefit from which type of co-teaching, so you can use that information to determine which model to use in your classroom, which will best fit your students' needs. Secondly, I think that future research needs to be done on how co-teaching can benefit general education students also. A lot of these articles focus on how beneficial it is for special education students, but not as much for general education students. So just more data to prove that. In conclusion, it's very important that educators receive training on how to effectively co-teach and to remember the importance of communication and collaboration. So when this co-teaching is done properly, it can benefit all the students, especially the students with special needs. But not only does this benefit the students with disabilities in an academic way, but it also benefits them socially. So a quote from one of the articles: increased exposure to students in special education fosters a culture of inclusivity and acceptance among the student population. Almost 1/3 of students would socially accept peers with disabilities because of their intrinsic right to be included. So it just shows that after being in a inclusive classroom, a lot of these students are more open-minded and accepting to their peers who are different than them. So by using the co-teaching model, this ensures that all students are receiving their education in the least restrictive environment and by highly qualified educators. Here are my references.